Hey everybody, while I'm waiting for this layout die to finish drying, just wanted to go over a couple of quick points. I get emails and questions sometimes, probably like all knife makers. Why do you do things a certain way? Why do you sit here and do layout die and then scribe lines and all this work and sitting there drawing grids on knives and all this other stuff? Why do you do all that instead of just get in there and grind the knife? Because you see some videos of guys that make knives, they pick up a blade and they jump on the grinder and they're like, I'm gonna let the grinder speak to me and I'm just gonna follow where the steel takes me and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying that's wrong or that that won't make you a very good knife, but it kind of boils down to what type of knives you make and whether or not it's a regular model and what your customers' expectations are. If you're the kind of guy that makes a little more rugged knives maybe, or they're a little more individualistic, then that may be fine. You can let the grinder speak to you and follow where the steel takes you. But you have to recognize you're going to have some variation that way, and you're not going to have extremely consistent performance necessarily, depending on different types of features of your knife. By laying these out and grinding them extremely close, as close as I can get them anyway, each time down to a couple of thousandths, I know that these saw teeth are going to cut every single time. I test almost every one of them just for kicks, but I know because I make them the exact same way. And you don't have to use purple or blue or red layout die or whatever else, but the importance of having reference lines and scribed lines and so on and so forth, it gives you something to, a touchstone, so to speak. So you've got something to refer back to and make sure these knives are coming out the same. Because, here's a good example. This was a knife I made early on, and it's now become a test knife where I've just done all kinds of different things. But in the beginning, I didn't draw any lines. Going back 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would just jump on the grinder and kind of see what happened. And you know what happened? I didn't like it, because you would get variation. Your edge thickness would be a little bit different each time. It wouldn't be perfectly centered. Scribing a center line is a very basic thing for most knife makers, because if you don't, once you start grinding, it's very easy. You lose those square edges, and you can't really measure it very easily anymore. So it becomes very easy for your edge to be, over here one way. In the middle of the blade, it's kind of drifted over here, and towards the tip, it's just a ripply slice of bacon, And you don't want that, because that can lead to problems during heat treat. It can lead to problems during performance, and that's not what you want. You want consistency. And especially if you have a particular model that your clients or customers like and want, they don't want each one to be dramatically different. I think we all understand that little differences are okay. If you look on my knives, you're going to see, especially on this particular grind, like this, First Blood type grind, it's going to be a little bit different from each one whenever the grind breaks into this first tooth here on the spine. It's just the way it goes. Sometimes it travels in a little bit, sometimes it goes down a little further. It's a kind of a complex grind to make exactly the same each time. And whenever you have these ceramic belts that are so powerful, they're capable of just eating into hardened steel so quick. All it takes is a bump and you've moved your grind line. So then you got to make everything symmetrical and so on. And that's not a problem as long as you do it properly. But it's important to me to lay it out. The die simply makes it easier to put those lines and make them more visible, and you keep them there while you're grinding. If you just draw them on with Sharpie on a blade, which I've done, and there's nothing wrong with that either, after a certain number of dunks in the water bucket, you may wind up losing it. And once you've lost it, if you've maybe altered the profile of the knife, you may not be able to just go back and measure and draw it again. So by putting the layout die on there and scribing it, even if the layout die comes off, that line is still scribed in the steel, and you have it. So anyway, not a real in-depth video, but that's one of the things that I get questions about, and that guys for some reason say, well, this knife maker doesn't do it, and I saw this video on Instagram. And the other thing you got to realize, man, is most of you probably know this. Everything on social media is fake, or just about everything. It's done to look good in a video. It's done to look good in a photo. So many of those processes are not real. And I'm not trying to pick on any knife maker or call anybody out or anything. That's not my point. I'm just saying, don't think that social media videos are how things actually get done. If you've been around knives and custom knives a long time, you already know that. But maybe if you're newer, you don't realize that sometimes guys just do stuff because it looks cool and dramatic on a video, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. Nothing, that's not being deceptive. They're not saying this is exactly how I do this and this is the results I get necessarily. If they are, then, well, that's on them. But you got to realize what actually happens after the video is done and the editing is done. Somebody goes in there and they finish grinding that knife or cleaning that knife up, or it may even go in the scrap bin. Social media is just not real. So what is real are measurements. What is real is dial calipers and micrometers, things that actually are tangible and quantifiable. So if you want consistent performance, that's how I do it. Thank you very much for your support. Guys, if you've got an order in with me, please be patient. Right now we are dealing with a mess out here in Portland, Oregon between the riots, and now we've got wildfires. It's just a disaster. We have to evacuate possibly. You can probably hear the sirens in the background. It's just nonstop right now as everything is going up in smoke, literally. So please be patient. I am absolutely doing the best that I can. I thank you for your patience and look forward to making more knives. Have a great day.